and welcome to Board with Video Games, the gaming podcast that strives for the right balance of coverage for games you play on your table and on your television. We're a proud member of the PSVG Podcast Network and thrilled to be part of the Dice Tower Network as well. I am one of your hosts, Kyle Hyman, and joining me on this co-op adventure, the guy with a fresh beach bod, Josh Borboni. How are you doing this fine evening?
Well, I'm doing just fine. My beach bod still the same though, not fresh, old beach bod. Every year I'm like, by the time before July, I'm gonna be in shape. I'm gonna make sure I get in shape, so I have a good beach bod. Good, not great. You know, same. I just gave up. Like, I just have to accept the dad bod, right?
Nothing wrong with a dad bod. And the fresh beach bod to me, is more of like, you know, the sun-kissedness of it.
I am for sure sun-kissed. That's true. I have a nice base tan going on.
So, seeing some of the pictures you were sharing of your beach vacation, always makes me. I always look at them. I'm like, man, I love the beach. I miss the beach. I don't go to the beach enough. Number one. Number two, I'm always like, man, I have such a farmer's tan. It is horrendous. like that's really, I think, the only reason I can't ever go to the beach, because my farmer's tan is so bad.
Well, the beauty of the beach is nobody's looking and nobody's judging. I mean, unless you're a certain age and demographic, nobody's looking, nobody's judging.
That's true.
They're certainly, if you are a lifeguard on the beach, everybody's looking and everybody's judging. That's just part of the job, I guess. But no pun intended. Nobody's looking. So
gotcha.
It's okay. I bought thongs for everyone this year, but nobody wore them.
What?
That's so now I have 2 extra thongs.
But you didn't even wear them. If nobody wore them, that means you didn't either.
I did. Speaking of farmer's tan, I did get a little self-conscious about how different. Like, I did 2 days on the beach, which is where I really tanned, and then I was like, if I put this Speedo on now, there's a very thick white line between tan and not tan. And I bought my cousin one, and it didn't fit him properly, so I felt bad that I was like, I bought my cousin one, I bought my brother one. I was like, if you guys have the guts to wear this, I will wear mine too. And then they both lied when I asked them what size they were. They both said mediums, and they're both wishing they were mediums. So they should have had larges.
We're all deluded.
Yeah. So I should have known I should upsize them, but I didn't want it to be too loose either, because then worse things could happen. So, now I got 2 thongs at home, and I'm just going to wear them around the house to embarrass my family.
Are you aware of the comedian Sheng Wang?
No, but he has a funny name.
So he does stand-up comedy. He has a special on Netflix. I can't remember the name of it, but he does a bit in that comedy special about he ordered that he had to. He's old enough now that he had to switch from boxers back to briefs because he had to give some more support to things going on.
I understand that.
Yeah, and he makes a joke about how he ordered that he had the option to get barn doorless briefs, basically. And he's like, well, that seems good, because he's like, who's got time to navigate all those complicated, and he's like, and realistically, whoever uses the barn doors anyway, right? And he's like, so I got them and I slid them on, and I realized in that moment I ordered myself panties.
There you go.
And that's just what I imagined then with your thong of like, okay, Josh got himself some panties.
Yeah, essentially that's how they feel. Feel unnatural. Yeah, but it was nice. It was a nice vacation. So
gotcha.
Always nice. Always looking forward to it. It never it doesn't disappoint, because it's just kind of, you have that opportunity when you're up in the morning, right? So even if you're lazy or want to be lazy on a lazy day, and if you don't want to start your day till after lunch on a beach vacation, you can already have been on the beach for 4 hours.
Right.
And then the rest of your day, you can do whatever you want. So you get your beach time in, and then you can, do nothing if you don't want to, and you're still on vacation. and you've already been on the beach for 4 hours. So that's always a nice bonus for me.
So I know in the past years, there have been. Did you stay in the same beach house that you stayed in previously?
Yes.
Okay. And I know in past years there have been, concerts and other things that have gone
Uh-huh.
on at
Yeah.
Do we have any concert stories? Any any musicians you heard that you were familiar with? Anything like that going on this time?
Nothing crazy. There wasn't a big band up there this year. They were mostly cover bands playing around. One
So no
guy,
Aaron Lewis.
no Aaron Lewis this year. At this point, I think he came up the week before us or the
Ah.
week after. There was a guy playing next door that was the first time I heard someone get booed by a drunk lady.
Oh.
To the point where she got kicked out.
Dang.
But this guy deserved the booze, if I'm being honest.
Okay, so he wasn't great, is what I'm hearing.
So that's the bonus of where we stay, is we get to hear every musician play at the place across the street, and they go on at around 11 a.m. and they don't stop till 1 a.m. So we get, solid full day of music.
Nice.
So yeah, but nothing crazy, nothing extraordinary to it. Home about, pretty normal vacation.
But that's good, right? Like sometimes the craziness of vacations or the crazier vacations are not the ideal vacations. So
yeah. I will. I'll take that for sure. How's your past month been?
Oh, I mean, it's been fine. I mean, I always feel bad because for the most part, my months are pretty similar. Like nothing really changes with them, which is fine, which is good, I guess. Let's see. So we're recording this on Sunday. It'll release on Tuesday, which means that really by the time this gets out, I will have finished my second to last class. I just have one class this fall left. So almost over the classes. Still have to finish the dissertation, obviously, but from a class perspective, we're getting that wrapped up. So that's good. And then when the day this releases, I will be, or really kind of when this releases, I will be on an airplane to California to go to Disneyland. So looking forward to that, to a little time off in the summer. Very rarely do I take time off in the summer. So this is kind of a unique, special treat, if you would, to do this. But yeah, looking forward to it. My partner's already out there because she's at a conference, though she did get in early enough yesterday that she snuck off to Disneyland for a few hours. So,
nice.
So she's already kind of started all of that and is enjoying her conference today. The one thing I will say that I do appreciate about her, that I sometimes get a little frustrated with other people about, is that even though she's at a conference, literally across the street from Disneyland, she is going to go to the entire conference, right? Like,
right.
Her work is paying for it. Like we work at the same university, so we're paying for it, as in the institution is for her to be there. And I've been with people in the past at other conferences who maybe haven't fully, partaken in the conference to go do other things.
Yeah.
But I know that she will actually partake in the full conference.
Good.
So.
Well, you don't want to be that person that gets busted.
Right.
After all of that, like, it's not even worth the risk, I don't think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So that's good. And, this conference is definitely, she's already, I talked to her earlier and she's already really enjoying it, learning a lot, taking a lot from it. So, which is great to hear. So,
good.
But yeah, otherwise, like I said, month of July has been pretty typical. One thing that's a bit weird here is, where I live, fireworks are only allowed like a couple days before the 4th of July and a couple days after the 4th of July, like otherwise, and like right around New Year's, otherwise fireworks are illegal.
Wait a second. Do they lift the legal ban for those holidays?
So what I should say is that they can only be used like in like certain time frames, like around the holidays.
Yeah.
And it is and it is posted like it is within the state. Each city gets to pick like when the times are that they're legal to be used. But in the past years, like our neighbors have gone like off the chain as far as using fireworks, but this year, pretty low key, not a lot going on. Yeah, I mean a few for sure, but nowhere near as significant as the past. And I'm fortunate that my dogs don't care either way.
Well, that's good,
which is nice for me. But yeah, I was just really surprised. I anticipated it being a raucous 4th of July this year, and it just was pretty chill. So, but other than that, not too much going on. Just waiting to start August. So
yeah.
Hey, with that, thanks for joining us this week, month, everyone. As always, if you have feedback, questions, or suggested topics, hit us up at Board with VG on X, or check out all the awesome stuff we post over on the Instagram, also Board with VG. We're proud to be part of the Play Some Video Games podcast family, so we encourage you to check out all the shows like the PSVG podcast, the Nintendo Shack, PSXP. You never know when a new show might pop up, so be sure to stay tuned to all of your favorite PSVG podcasts to stay up to date. We're also a member of the Dice Tower Podcast Network, so if you enjoy our conversations about board games and would like to dive deeper into that world, we encourage you to check out the Dice Tower Podcast archive, as well as all the other members of the network. No matter what type of board games you enjoy, there's a podcast on the network that's right for you. So with that, we're going to jump in and talk a little bit about what we've been playing over the last month. Josh, sir, what have you been playing?
You know, I'm like 100% sure I'm missing some things. I don't know why. I was like thinking about my list. I'm like, oh, I'm going to have so many things. And I started writing it down. I'm like, well, where did all those things go? I don't have so many things. I have some things. We have a lot of shared games on here. Minus one, two, actually. So where to start? Well, I did jump in a couple Game Pass games. One of them being Flintlock, which I did add. I think it's called like the New Dawn or something like that.
Yeah, I believe that's right.
It's an interesting style game. It's kind of like a steampunky game that takes place in the past of some timeline where gods exist, and you're playing this commander wannabe character, and she's trying to rescue her team from these hordes of, I guess, undead, perhaps. It's okay. Like, I think it is probably meeting what my expectations were. I think it showed up at the Xbox show, maybe.
It did. Yep.
And yeah, the Siege of Dawn, and it's a Game Pass game in my mind. That's what I'm going to call it. Like, it's one of those games you play because you're curious, and it's on the Game Pass, a subscription service that you have, and you're either going to like it or you're not. And I think I'm in between. I'm not really sure where I am. I think the combat's fine. It's not super fluid, but it's not so bad that it's unplayable or unenjoyable. You do eventually meet one of these god characters, which is like this kind of like fennec fox looking thing with like 9 tails. And it gives you some extra moves you can do for combos. You also upgrade your traversion styles, where you can include gunpowder to kind of like, if you saw the trailer for the Mississippi game. What is that game?
Why
am I blanking on it?
South of Midnight?
Game, yes. It has like a similar like traversal style where you use a secondary move to enhance your traversal. I don't know why I'm stumbling over this. This is the easy part of the game to explain. Your combat goes between sword and gun, so your main combat is a sword, and you can incorporate a gun into your combat, but the gun is kind of like a one shot, and then you can't use it as a recharge, so you're not firing your gun constantly. It's more focused on melee attacks. It definitely has like a Dark Souls feel to it, because you do have parries and giant bosses, but it's not as difficult or challenging as Dark Souls is, at least in my mind. At least not yet. So far so good. It's pretty fun. If you have Game Pass, I would say it's worth checking out, just to see if it's a game for you.
So I have this downloaded, but I haven't played it yet. Would you say that because did you watch the trailer during the Xbox showcase?
Yes.
Would you say the game is better than, as good as, or not as good as the trailer for it?
Hold on. Now I gotta look it up again. Because I did see it, but do I remember how good it looked? I remember talking about it after watching the trailer,
right,
from Xbox. And I'm gonna just kind of skip through a couple of quick seconds. Yeah, I think as far as combat goes, yeah, it's pretty nailed.
Okay.
There's some stuff in the trailer that I definitely did not see yet. And there it is from Ashen, from the people who made Ashen. So if you tried Ashen like I did, which is also on Game Pass, you're gonna kind of get the look and feel of the game from that. But yeah, I think combat definitely different from Ashen, and I think that the trailer showcases it pretty well. So I think it looks pretty accurate. Yeah, it's fun. This is reminding me that it is fun. It's been a minute, so yeah, I'm enjoying that. I didn't put FC24 on here, but that is a game I'm putting on now. Played on vacation. A lot of fun. It did. I don't know if this is intentional or not, but it doesn't play exactly like FIFA. It actually has like just a little bit further out view on the field, which kind of feels almost crazy. Like it feels like you're playing a soccer game for ants. It's very challenging.
Gotcha.
You could probably zoom in. Maybe you can. I don't know. But I still like it a lot. Played it with my cousin, my brother, and my son. So it was a lot of fun. Just to try to have some fun with 4-player soccer. Nice to be able to play that locally, you know?
Right.
So that's also nice. Still playing Minecraft Dungeons. Still challenging on the patience front. TMNT, Splintered Fate, or Splintered Fates, potentially. Came out while I was on vacation. I just kind of had to grab it, knowing what I was reading about it. And if anyone doesn't know, it's essentially Hades Light. So it is a TMNT game that borrows a lot from Hades, a lot, and it's a light version of it, right? You're not getting all the same crazy amounts of power ups. You're very limited to what you're getting. In fact, I believe, if I remember correctly, there's only 3 or 4 different types of boons you can get, and those are ooze, ninja, and 1 or 2 others, fire and ice or water. So there are more elements. Maybe I didn't unlock them all, but essentially what you're doing is, if you know Hades in TMNT, you're playing through this Ninja Turtles game. It's fully voice acted, which I really appreciate.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
This is on the Switch that I grabbed it. I think it's only Switch right now. Timed exclusive, and I think it comes out to consoles later. There's a few things I appreciate. 1, fully voice acted. 2, co-op, same screen, up to 4 players. You don't get that in Hades, I'll tell you that. And that's fun and challenging, right? It also has that thing where if you die, you can come back, but you do take life from your teammate, like the Contra kind of method. But you can't just jump back in whenever you want. I think you jump back in when an area is clear, so they're not just stealing life from you all the time. But you do lose life, I believe, when a person comes back. As you're playing through, I picked Donatello because he's the best Ninja Turtle. They do very similar things with Hades. Like, there's characters in this I'm unfamiliar with because I think it's based off of the Nickelodeon TV show.
Oh, okay.
Or the newer ones. But like this character I'm unfamiliar with. She is the second boss, and maybe Kira Karai or something like that. But just like Hades, like when you encounter her again after defeating her once, she does change her moveset. And it's devastating change. I haven't experienced such a giant change in difficulty in like Hades at all. So this is a huge like difficulty jump. So the difficulty is still there, but I really just kind of appreciate it for what it is. It's like a $40 game, right? So perfect right in that wheelhouse. It's probably short, but has like this very nice replayability loop, like Hades. And that voice acting is very nice. So that's easy recommendation from me. Very fun, and I think you can play online as well. So I can always jump in with people. I want to talk about this quick because you're going to talk way more about it than I am. But because Kyle got EA Sports College Football 25, I have shown interest in our Discord about playing it. I've always wanted to play Madden with people. I know college football is a different game, so I was excited to try it and see how different it is. I never played the college football games in the past because I never watched college football. More than like going to a game, but not like watching it on TV. But yeah, I think I played a game so far, and it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I know that play style, right? Like even if I've just played Madden, I've watched enough Patriots football to know what a Miami Dolphins football team plays football like, and it's like a college football team. So I'm very familiar with Wildcat and these types of offenses and defenses, and the we'll say the openness for Hail Marys, the openness for long passes, the openness for quarterbacks just kind of just decide to run. So I like that is part of its DNA, and it's built around that. I'm still figuring out the controls.
Yeah.
There's a lot different from Madden, and in fact, a lot different from Madden for me at least, where I'm trying to do things I'm so used to doing in Madden, and I'm just messing up fantastically. But it looks great. I could do without the screen shake in my own home stadium. Like that should be against the other team, not against me. Like when my team when my fans are getting riled up, they should be quiet when I have the ball. They should be loud when the other team has the ball. So when I'm trying to figure out what to do and my literal screen is shaking, and I'm like, why is this happening?
Well, and I think that does have to do with your your quarterback stats. That if your quarterback was like more composed, it would not do that as bad.
Okay, that's a good point. That I would have to look more into. But for the little time I have played with it, I really enjoy it. I do look forward to playing more of it. So that has been a lot of fun so far. Enjoyable. It looks great. It looks fantastic. All right. First Descendant. Game that really took me by surprise. I now have 3 different characters on 3 different consoles for this game.
Wow. Okay, so you have continued to play this big time.
I got not big time, but I have my PC guy. I got my Xbox character now is Bunny. Bunny's on PlayStation. And my Xbox guy and my PlayStation guy. I have to figure out where I want to play it. I think it's really just I wanted to try out the characters.
Yeah.
And then figure out where I want to play. But yeah, we talked about it in the Discord a bunch. I kind of really just enjoy this game. I don't know where it's going, where they kind of take it as far as content creators, but for anyone who doesn't know, it's really just it's this game that borrows 85% of Destiny's overworld. It borrows even engrams to a degree.
It does, yeah.
It borrows third-person combat from, you could probably think of most third-person combat games, but like, what was the game I was comparing it to? Not Gears of War, because it's too fast for that. What's another third-person shooter that everyone loves? It borrows, they don't love this game, but it borrows from Outriders combat.
Oh, yeah.
So it's that shoot 'em up, like you still have the same kind of weapons like Destiny. Shotgun, sniper rifles, assault rifles, SMGs, grenade launchers, rocket launchers, etc. Those are all here. Third-person combat like Outriders in a good way. And specials, and multitude of characters like Apex Legends, right? So it's like kind of taking all these games and mixing them together to make mostly a Destiny style game in third person. In my opinion, like it really feels like Destiny, which is probably why I really like it so much. And yeah, you can set your world to private or public, and if you're playing like 4 players, like we played a game together with Lucas, I believe, and Kevin, or both of them, or none of them, who knows anymore. um, and you can say your maps are private, but like when you're trying to tackle these missions, these waypoint missions, um, you want to set that to public because those people will help you. It's just kind of like Destiny. There's like strikes like Destiny. They're not called strikes. There's probably raids that I haven't seen yet, but there's these pretty big boss fights as well. I just really enjoy it. I think it looks cool. It feels cool. There's some stuff in it that I don't love. It's a little busy with all the stuff you have to do or can do in the game. When it comes down to like breaking down weapons and enhancing weapons is not as straightforward as I want it to be. It's a little convoluted, and I feel like there's a lot of potential to break down the wrong weapon. They don't give you tutorials per se. They have a robot like talk fast at you,
which is fixed now. He doesn't talk anymore.
Which is fixed. Anymore. You can now like hit A when you want, but he was just going when I started.
Yeah, man.
I'm like, I didn't retain anything you just said. But overall, the game I'm going to keep playing. I really enjoy it for what it is, a free-to-play game, right? It's free to play. What kind of complaints should I have? They're there, but it's very few for what I have. So I'm really enjoying that. Concord Beta. I gotta speed it up. Concord Beta. I love it. It's so cool. It's a lot of fun. I don't have too much to say about it, right? It's like there's a ton of characters. Each character plays different. I've tried a bunch of them, not all of them. I think the maps are small and charming and challenging. I think the other characters are all of those things I just said. Same.
Yeah.
Charming. Talented. Challenging. Charming. Say that? So I really like it. I think it's fun. I look forward to playing it more. I have watched the second short film, the animated one they put out. I like that they're trying to, again, talking about Apex Legends, trying to like kind of get that lore going. So hopefully the community picks up on it better than they have been. So I don't know what they need to fix to make that success, but I kind of want to get that controller real bad.
That controller is really nice.
It's a very cool looking controller. Yeah. And then the last thing I'll talk about is a board game. Who would have thought I played a board game? Unmatched Tales to Amaze. This is the cooperative Unmatched game, and it kind of plays a little bit like Horrified. If you played Horrified, I will say a few things about this. When you play, you either choose your main antagonist is either Mothman or Martians. We chose Mothman, and then you pick maybe like ancillary or like sub bosses of bad guys, and you have from 6 you can choose from. I think we chose randomly. We ended up with Tarantula. Oh boy, I can't remember what else we ended up with. And 2 others, Ant, Queen, and something else. I don't know why it's escaping me. The game, I played it with 2 friends. We got destroyed. And I think that the consensus was nobody enjoyed it.
Okay.
I liked it. I thought it was fun. But I think it was too challenging. It kind of came out of nowhere. It was like a rolling difficulty. Like we took the first 2 rounds and thought it was like fun, and then all of a sudden we're like, okay, we can't keep our head above water. We're just getting destroyed by the game. So it was pretty challenging and difficult. But the characters are very cool. The characters, when you play, you pick out of 4 characters, just like the Unmatched characters. You can also play with your Unmatched characters and bring their decks into the game. So technically, we could have had Deadpool fighting Mothman if we wanted to, but we didn't do that. I was Nikola Tesla, and my friends were other people who's
Okay.
I forget. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I would like to play it more. The challenge will be getting people to want to play it again. They also did just announce the next Unmatched Tales to Amaze game, which is Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's all they announced. They haven't announced bad guys or anything else, but
Gotcha.
I'll be interested in checking that out. So that is 40 plus minutes of me talking about games I've been playing. Kyle, what have you been playing?
Definitely not 40 plus minutes. It's only been 30 minutes, and we had other stuff at the beginning. But
Okay,
anyway,
right.
anyway, well, I'll start with board games, and then I'll go back to video games just to kind of stay kind of in the world that you had just been talking about. So I have two board games to chat about here briefly. Both of them were Kickstarters I had backed that came in. The first one, and they're actually really, I guess, both from the same publisher. But anyway, that's fine. The first one is Nocturne, which is designed by David Iezzi, which with beautiful art by Beth Sobel, and from the fine folks at Flat Out Games. Nocturne is a pretty interesting set collection bidding game, basically, and that on your turn you have a number of chips. Those chips start at like, oh gosh, the highest value is like 12, and the lowest value is like 3. And basically on your turn, there is a depending on the number of players, changes the size of the grid. But there's a grid in a 2-player game of 16 spells, 16 resources, we'll say, that you're trying to get. It's a 4x4 grid, 16 cards. And the first person who puts out, like, they have to start, in the first person bid has to start with their lowest number for the first round. But let's say they put out a 3, okay? And they put it on a random, whatever it might be, resource. Then it'd be my turn to go. I have to put if I want to bid on something, it has to be higher than a 3. So I got to use one of my discs that is higher than a 3. And I have to put it adjacent to the one that was just put out. And for adjacency for them is just left, right, up, down. So nothing diagonal. So let's say I'm like, okay, I put out my 5 on like a spot above. Then it goes back to the other person. Then they would have to use a 6 or higher, et cetera, et cetera. So you're just going around, and like I said, always kind of following those rules of that you have to bid higher, and you have to bid, either up, down, left, or right of the piece that was previously put. Whenever someone passes, or once everyone has passed, whoever has the highest bid out there gets to take that resource. Everyone else takes all of their things back, all of their little chips back. And then the person who got that bid, their high one, stays out there to represent that spot is now gone. And then since they won, they now bid first in the next group. And after since the first round is done, they can bid with whatever number they want to start. Okay. And then you just kind of continue to do this. And the resources you're bidding for is like, oh, if you get like one of these, is worth 2 points. If you get 2 of them, it's worth 3 points. If you get 3 of them, it's worth 5 points. If you get 4 of them, it's worth 9 points, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Or like, hey, these are all mushrooms, but if you get like 6 different mushroom names, then it's, worth like 18 points. But if you have, 3 different mushroom names, it's worth like 9 points or something like that, right? So this different types of set collection, but you're thinking back and forth not only of like, what pieces do I want, or what ones do I want? Like, since I can only bid on them in that certain, direction, like, where do I need to start to hope that person kind of gets to the direction and that I want them to, so that I can kind of end on a high one. But also, like, when do I pass? When do I not pass? Like, when have I committed enough to the pot? When have I not? There are ways too that if you play it right, that you can set it up that since you have to, the first bid of the next round has to be up, down, left, or right of the winning bid from the previous round. So if you do it right, you can set it up so that there's only like one spot available to go. So you automatically win the next round with like a bid of 1. So there's all these like little neat things that you're trying to do. And then basically you do 2 kind of, you have like a twilight and a moonlight phase. So the twilight's a group of 16 cards, and the moonlight's a group of 16 cards. And then after that's all done, add up your scores. Whoever has the highest score wins. kind of fits really well into that idea of overall not a super complex game, really easy to explain to someone when you're sitting down, but interesting decisions to make throughout the game. So overall, I enjoy it. This isn't a game that's going to, I think, like knock anyone's socks off. There's nothing here that we haven't seen done elsewhere, but I think just how the kind of thought process of like how you're going to bid and when you're going to bid, what sets you try to focus on to kind of build out your set collection. The art is wonderful. There's enough variability too that the foxes, so you play as a quote unquote fox wizard in this game. There are variable player powers, so the different foxes have different abilities that can be used. There also is different scoring criteria that everyone can use. So there's like these different things of like in the first round, like the first person to accomplish something gets to take these certain points. And in the last round, like everyone can be like, if you accomplish these things, you get these points at the end of the game. So there's a bunch of different cards related to those things. So there is a lot of like flexibility of setup and for it to feel very different every time you play it. It was a really affordable game. I think it was like $30. I think you can probably find it online for probably even like 20, and I think it's easily worth the price. Like I said, I don't think this is a game that is going to like suddenly be someone's favorite game of all time or like crack a lot of top 10s, but it is a really fun game just to sit down, play. Maybe you're having like coffee with someone and you're just kind of like wanting to have a conversation and play this game at the same time. Like I think it really really fits that build. So easy to teach, some thoughtful decisions, a lot of flexibility in the setup. I think it's an easy recommend. Like I said, I don't think this is like the first game anyone should go buy, but I think if you're trying to kind of round out a collection and looking for something that's going to be a half an hour to play, has some interesting, thoughtful decisions, easy to teach, easy to learn, I think this is a good fit. So that's
Yes.
Nocturne from Flat Out Games. The second game then that I played was Cascadia Rolling Rivers. So this is a roll and write version of Cascadia, the very, very popular game. And there's basically two of them. There's Rolling Rivers and something fields. Rolling Fields, Running Fields, I don't remember. But there's two very different versions of the game that are ostensibly the same. But basically, this is just going to kind of be your roll and write version, or flip and write version, if you want to look at it that way, of Cascadia. So the way it works is that you are rolling dice, and then when you roll dice, it gives you a certain number of resources. Ostensibly, those dice are going to show up. They're going to show like bear, elk, foxes, salmon, and hawks. And once you get those, you can then you have basically a tracker that is a part of what you're writing of like how many of each resource you have, and then you can use those resources to claim land tiles, and those land tiles then are going to translate to a paper map that you have in front of you that allow you to like quarantine on. There's 4 different maps that you can play with, but it allows you to basically like be like, hey, I have now earned a mountain region or a forest region, and then once you earn enough of those, it might get you some bonus points, kind of all of that stuff. So it's a very standard quote unquote roll and write, but really kind of oozes that Cascadia theme, if you would. So if you like Cascadia, or if you like roll and write games, I think they're both pretty easy recommends. We've only played Rolling Rivers. We haven't played the Fields one yet. Rolling Rivers is pretty interesting because there's basically 4 different maps, for lack of a better word, that you can play on, and they all feel very different. Like how you approach them, how you earn points, kind of what you're rolling, and kind of your strategy going into it. They all do feel pretty different. So I think it's really another pretty easy recommend. Again, if you've never played a roll and write, I think this is a really easy one to get in on because especially if you have familiarity with Cascadia, a lot of the terminology is going to be very, very similar. But like I said, again, very affordable game, $25, I think. And like I said, I think it's an easy recommend if you're looking to get into either roll and writes, or if you're like a fan of Cascadia and want more. I think that Rolling Rivers or whatever fields the other one is, I think is an easy way to get in there. So
Nice.
So those were the 2 board games. Very, very briefly, then from a video game perspective, like Josh mentioned, I've also played the First Descendant. It kind of to me is like if you smash together Warframe and Destiny. That's pretty much what
Warframe is
yeah. So that is very much what the First Descendant feels like. Overall, it's not too bad. The developer's been very responsive to the feedback from the community. They've done multiple updates that have really smoothed out some of the complaints and concerns that people had, especially with monetization. As a free-to-play game, they've made it more friendly than it initially was. I haven't spent any money in the game yet,
Right.
It is exceedingly grindy, which is to be expected for a game like
Yeah.
this, even if you paid money for it. Overall, it's pretty good. I definitely have a few connection issues sometimes where like once you first go into an area, your FPS isn't always super
Yeah.
smooth necessarily. So there's still a few little hiccups there. For the most part, I do tend to play it by myself. I do set the maps to private, but there are some things where you go fight like these really large mechs and things like that. And for those, I always
Very difficult.
do
Yeah.
yeah, I always do them publicly, to kind of jump in and do kind of that stuff, and from a public perspective. My biggest gripe with the game is that there's just so much stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like you are getting like so many weapons all of the time, and you are picking up. So you're picking up weapons. Every single weapon or every single weapon style has like goodness gracious, what, like 12 mods,
At
like
least.
12
Yeah.
different types of mods that can go into them, and then you have like 9 or 12 different types of weapons,
And then
and then
rarities of the mods too.
yes, exactly. And then your suit that you wear has a whole bunch of mods, but then in
Yeah.
addition to the mods, it has other like plugins that it has that get like boost your defense and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But that those things have I mean, there is so much stuff
Yep.
all of the time. And like what it got to the point where literally I was just going in, I was just like optimize, optimize. I'm like, I don't want to take the time to like look through all of this stuff. I'm like,
Sure. Sure.
optimize, saving these 4 things, recycling everything else. Now, is that a good idea? I have no idea.
Right.
Probably not. No clue. But I
But
was like, what am I?
you'll end up with more anyways. Even if you recycle the
Right.
wrong thing, you'll get it again.
Right. In like 5 minutes, you're going to have something that
Yeah.
maybe even better anyway. So I think that's just my big gripe with it. Is like, yes, I know looter shooters, you're getting a lot
Yeah.
of loot. Like, I get it, but like, it is ridiculous how much
Yeah.
loot you get in this game. Like, it very much feels like you're spending more time almost in the menus than you are playing the game sometimes.
For sure.
But overall, for a free to play game, I think, is it a quote unquote copy of Destiny in a lot of ways in
Yes.
looks and feel? Yes, it is. And I think, as we get into these challenging situations of how long it takes to make games, and how much AI is not used or not used, like all of these things, that I think we're going to see more and more of this where things look
But it
real
took a
similar.
long time for us to get to a Destiny clone.
Yeah, it really did.
It's been a long time.
So, but yeah, so like I said, I think it's worth at least checking out to see if it scratches an itch for you. Like I said, if you like Warframe, or if you like Destiny, or if you're like interested in potentially getting into one of those, since this one is so new, like you are still gonna be behind because some people, my goodness gracious, I don't know
Oh
where they
man,
have the
they
time.
just go nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's a good place to at least to check out. Oddly enough, I started playing Borderlands 3 again. I don't know why. It was one of the PS Plus games, and I was like,
Sure.
yeah, and I was like, you know what? Why not? I'll download it. I'll play it again. Whatever. Um,
Oh man, you love that game.
apparently, maybe I do. I don't know. Like, I started thinking about this. I'm like, Josh is supposed to be the Borderlands person, but I feel like I've played way more Borderlands since this podcast
You
started than
have.
he has.
You have.
I didn't get very far. I don't know that I'm going to continue, to be honest. But I had this itch, this Borderlands itch, and maybe I should have played Borderlands
Sure.
2 instead.
When
I
you
don't know.
started replaying it, how did it feel?
I felt good.
Did it?
Yeah. So
Good. I'm glad. Yeah, Borderlands 3 just, I don't know, maybe I should give it another shot. But
yeah, I do think that unfortunately I should say it felt fine, I should say, probably, because I think part of the reason for part of my annoyance with Borderlands 3, I guess, would be the first gun you get sucks. Like, it's just not
sure.
good.
Yeah.
And then you get better stuff in not too long, and then you have the same loot situation that you have in the First Descendant, or you're like, is this better? I don't know. Like, these numbers are higher, but these numbers are lower. How does that translate to being better? I have no clue. I just go by power level and call it good, or
Yeah.
whichever
Unless
one.
it shoots hamburgers, I don't want it.
Yeah, like whichever, either power level or whichever one I can sell for more. Like, I just assume is better, and that's just the one I equip.
Right.
Like, I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'll keep playing it, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe I should have gone to 2 because I haven't played 2 in a longer amount of time. But yeah, so I started Borderlands 3 again. We'll see what happens.
Nice.
Yeah, Concord Beta.
You're
I
the
feel
man to
really
talk
bad
to
for
about
this game.
this.
Yeah, I feel really bad for this game because I feel like this game is going to die
Crap
when it
out,
comes
yeah.
out, and which is unfortunate because I think it's a really solid game. Like,
Oh, good. I agree with you.
like it plays really well. Like kind of like everything you said. Like it plays well. The characters are different and interesting. And I know people are like, oh, they're just Guardians of the Galaxy. sure, tonally from like that perspective, maybe it's something we've seen
Just
before,
that
but like,
video was Guardians of the Galaxy. The game
yeah,
does not give that
no, not at
feel
all.
at all.
No, and I think that's the characters feel really different.
Yeah,
And one of the reasons that I think is so interesting that they feel different is like it could be really easy in a game like this, which I'll talk about another one in a second here, where everything just feels like something you've done before. And there's a couple moments where you're like, okay, I've kind of like, I have generally used a sniper in a game before. So
right.
this is a sniper, so that generally feels, but like many of the abilities are really unique and
Yeah,
different and thoughtful, and the way that they interact with other characters and the environment is different than what we've seen. Kind of like having like all these unique ways of like getting your abilities back. The fact that there are not ultimates, right?
yes,
Like it's
I
very
love
much
that.
about how do you manage like the abilities that you, the core abilities that you have. Some of them, depending on the character, refill over time. Some of them you like once you kill someone, you can pick something up that refills a use of it. Like
Yeah,
they're really thoughtful, unique, different ways that they're doing this. And I don't know. Like, I just don't think anybody. I think that original trailer, like, really for whatever reason, turned people off, and I think they're going to be missing out on a really good game. And because of the type of game it is, I don't think it's going to stick around for too long, for very long, which is really disappointing because I do think it is doing something pretty different in the space.
yeah.
As someone who plays a lot of games in this space, so I'm going to jump ahead very briefly to EA Sports College Football 25, and then I'll come back to the other one. Um, yeah, I was really excited for this game. I'm a huge college football fan. It's been sad not having a college football game for a long time. The long and short of it, to not go on too long about this game, there are some parts of it that are great. There's some parts of it that are not great. But overall, I'm just really happy to have a college football game again. Like the things that are challenging or not great about it are not enough to make me stop playing it. It does mimic college football in the sense that, like, for the most part, offense rules the day. Defense is tough. But that's the way for most college football games are too, right? Like most college football games tend to be high scoring. There
Yeah.
tends to be an advantage on the offensive side of the ball. If you do any YouTube searches for this game, most of the videos that come back are like, "Why do you suck at defense in college football 25? Here are ways to get better." Like, so yeah, and I think it's just fun to be able to do things like, you know, bring a 1-star team up to, over a dynasty time of recruiting the right players and getting the right players in the portal and making them better and like getting them to be like a dynasty over time. Like that's just neat, fun things that you can do with it. So I'm really happy that it's back. There have been a lot of problems with it, a lot of issues. A lot of weird, quirky things happen. I felt kind of bad. I was gonna message Seth the other day because I was playing against Kent State. I was playing. My dynasty team is Northern Illinois, and I was playing against Kent State, and like literally they play in a hurry up offense for most of the game. And at one point, the quarterback snaps the ball and just stands there. Oh, actually, no, I take it back. I take it back. That's not what it, oh no, that did happen too. But no, they rushed to the line and then just let
Just
the
didn't
play
do
clock
anything.
go all the way out and then get a delay game.
Sure.
Like I'm like, I
That's
don't know
funny.
why. Like that just happened. I won a game against Notre Dame at like on like the second to last play of the game because for whatever reason the Notre Dame center snapped the ball to their quarterback. The quarterback just missed it, and the ball
Really?
went like 25 yards. So then like my defensive player like ran down there, picked it up, and scored a touchdown. Like I just don't know why that happened. It just did.
Hey, it
So
happens sometimes.
I mean, does it though? Like, does it
Not a
really?
lot, but it happens.
So
I'm sure it's happened.
yeah, but like, so just kind of weird, quirky things that happen. So overall, though, I'm going to keep playing it. This is going to kind of be back when the UFC game came out, and how it was just a kind of a game I just played kind of regularly every few days.
Yeah,
This is, I think, going to be the game I play that for the rest of the year, probably, and probably much longer than that.
nice.
Final game then that I played is I got into the Marvel Rivals beta.
Yeah, I saw that.
So yeah, so Marvel Rivals, the 6v6 third person Overwatch game, basically. So
Yeah.
Overwatch, but 6v6 now and third person. With Marvel characters. So the beta's been going, the closed beta's been going on for a few days now. They keep, putting out new content into it. They just
You
released,
got Jeff the Shark.
yeah. So they released Thor and Jeff the Land Shark, and suddenly nobody cared about Thor because everyone was obsessed with Jeff. And he is great. He is such a great character in general. He was really great in Marvel Snap too. He was like one of
Yes,
my
he's
favorite
great in
characters in Marvel Snap.
Sniper.
So yeah, okay. When I was talking about in Concord that the game
Yeah.
is doing things that nowhere else nobody else is doing. For Marvel Rivals, for the most part, there's not much new here, right? most of the abilities are abilities that are almost many of them are directly from Overwatch.
Yeah.
Some of them are from other games. So, right, we're taking all these things together. Now, granted, it's not like character sort of the same. Like, you're taking like matching like 3 or 4 abilities from different characters into one character. So, like, you it is still kind of unique in the sense that you're putting abilities together that maybe you wouldn't typically see together. But for the most part, the the game styles like control the point, push the payload, like all of these things are there. Yes, they have destructible environments, so that part's a little bit different. And they have team up attacks, so that's kind of neat and different. Um, Overall, I am enjoying it. It is fun. It is a good time. I will say this game is way less optimized than Concord, like not even remotely
Really?
close to the same. Granted, Marvel Rivals, I think technically is coming out in 2025. So there's
Yeah.
still a lot of time there. So,
Yeah.
and Concord is next month / this month, depending on when you're listening to this. So obviously they shouldn't be the same technically. Um, but yeah, so Marvel Rivals definitely has some work to do. But it is fun. Like it's a good time. I think that, whereas Concord, it's all new characters that you have to get to know and kind of like learn about them. Like Marvel Rivals, like these are all characters for the most part that people know. Whether on a surface level because you like MCU stuff, or on a deep level because like you read the comics, like, and they do have characters both very publicly known and those that are really kind of deep cuts. They have all of those available. And yeah, so like I said, I think the game is fun. Like I am going to continue to play it. I'm having a good time with it. What the disappointing thing to me is that we say we want new IP.
Yeah.
So
Then
here
we
we have Concord, which is a
squash
new
it when it comes
IP
out.
that is like polished as heck, which it plays really well, is a great time, and everyone's like doesn't have the time of day for it.
Yeah.
But here's another Marvel game, and we're all in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's a
do we
bummer.
actually want new IP, or do we just say we want new IP?
Yeah.
Anyway,
That's
and just
true.
the fact that it's new IP shouldn't mean that people like it, right? Like if you don't jive with it, but I think people aren't even giving it a chance, which I think is disappointing. But we'll see. We'll see if that game lives. But overall, Marvel Rivals, it is fun. I'm curious because my most of my Overwatch group is still on PS4.
Oh,
Um,
really?
and Marvel Rivals is not going to be on previous generations. So we'll see what they do or what they're going to do. Because they were all like, "Oh, we'll play too." I'm like, no, you can't. No, you're not. um, but yeah, so Marvel Rivals, it is. It's basically exactly what you think it'd be. I think for the better or for worse, I have not been surprised by anything really in it. It's pretty much exactly what you think it's going to be, which is fun. But if you think you're going to like it, you probably will. If you don't think it's for you, it's probably not. So, all right. So that wraps up what we've been playing. Let's move on now to talk about our topics, which are going to be, potentially a little bit limited, but some fun conversations hopefully will be had. Starting with in the board game realm, the winners of the Spiel des Jahres were awarded or announced, depending on how you want to look at it. Last month, we talked about how they had announced the nominees, and recently the winners were announced. So this is from the folks at Board Game Wire. Sky Team has won the coveted Spiel des Jahres for 2024, piping fellow nominees Captain Flip and In the Footsteps of Darwin to the German Game of the Year prize. The co-op design from Luke Redman and Scorpion Mask is the first two-player game to win the prize in the Spiel des Jahres' 45-year history.
Wow.
Targi was nominated for the prize in 2012. Targi, great game. 7 years after the only other two-player only nominee, Jumbo, also a great game. Sky Team's win marks the second time in 3 years a game published in Germany by Cosmos has won the top prize, following the success of Cascadia in 2022, which we just talked about. Cosmos published games have previously won the Spiel des Jahres on 3 occasions, with Keltis by Rainer Knizia triumphing in 2008, Settlers of Catan winning in 1995, and Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective clinching the prize in 1985. A statement from the Spiel des Jahres jury said, Sky Team is convincing in terms of gameplay, atmosphere, and theme across the board. The short games are highly rewarding if you're successful, and if you fail, you'll want to try again straight away. Sky Team's win means the Spiel des Jahres has been won by a cooperative game design in 4 of the past 6 years. Following the success of just one in 2019, Micro Macro Crime City in 2021, and Dorf Romantic the board game last year. The Kenner Spiel des Jahres prize for more complex games was also won by a co-op, with climate action focused Daybreak, with the much slicker name Emission in Germany, by Matt Leacock and Matteo Mempas, clinching the win. So I'm not going to go ahead and continue reading this. So for the most part, though, we got Sky Team, winning the Spiel des Jahres, kind of as we predicted. And then Daybreak winning the Kenner Spiel, which is also basically what we said we thought would happen. Josh, what are your thoughts on Sky Team winning, on Daybreak winning? Does this convince you to pick either of these up any sooner?
Yeah, I think I have to get Sky Team now, right? At least to try it. Excuse me. Daybreak, I don't know. I mean, it's got to be right place, right time kind of thing, but I'm still interested in playing it. I just don't know that I'll be purchasing it anytime soon. Just because of lack of time to play board games. I get so many to play, so little time.
Yeah, I am definitely. These are two games I've wanted before. They're two games that I was very, very interested in, and now it's kind of, I guess, seals the deal, if you would. I don't know that I'll get them tomorrow, but probably for the holidays, looking at picking something up. So, as we've mentioned before, the Spiel des Jahres is a big deal. It translates to significant increase in sales for these games, especially in Germany. So, big props to the winners there. Also, like I said, I don't think super surprising just based off of the buzz those two games have had, but still much deserved recognition for both Sky Team and Daybreak. All right, Josh, I didn't really want to talk about much other board game news because transparently there wasn't much else exciting that has happened.
That's okay.
So what I did want to do though was check in with you, because we used to do this a little more often and we haven't done it in a while. I want to check in with you about the friendly Kickstarter world / any other crowdfunding sources you might use. I just want to check in about where you are with Kickstarter. Like, have you received anything recently? Have you backed anything recently? Anything you're keeping an eye on? Kind of generally, where are you with crowdfunding right now, sir?
Well, I think the last thing I received was Skyrise. So that's the last game I got. What do I have that has not been delivered yet? Where's the easiest way to figure this out? I still have Gamefold, my gaming table that has not arrived yet, so I'm still waiting on that. And Dead Cells, the roguelite board game.
Yeah.
I have not gotten that yet as well. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, those are the only two current Kickstarters I have waiting to fulfill. I spent a lot of money on that game table. I really hope it comes through in a good way. And not including the $100 I have to pay for shipping.
Right.
Yeah, I was not expecting it to be that high. Yeah, and then over on GameFound, I do have a pledge in for the Fox Experiment Deluxe Edition, which they put out on GameFound.
Oh, nice.
Because I felt sad about missing out on that, and I'm trying to see if I have another backing on it. Oh, I'm not doing a security code. Sorry, GameFound. Nice.
I was surprised you did do Ascension Legends.
I'm on the fence on Ascension Legends right now. I have so many Ascension games.
Mm-hmm.
It would be nice to get it, but again, I don't know what it is. I think I'm just in this window where I have to wait till my son's old enough for me to get back into board gaming again. It makes me sad, actually. Because I miss playing board games. I really do. I get to play with my friends occasionally.
Right.
But, when we are playing, it's D&D, it's Pathfinder, so I'm not really, getting that aspect of it. So I am looking forward to getting back into games, whatever that may be. I will accept it when it comes.
Yeah.
With open arms. But yeah, right now, for someone like me now, I probably, in the past few years, could have rattled through like 8 different things I was kickstarting, or at least interested in. But I kind of reined it in that regard, which should come across when we were trying to go over the Spiel Des Jahres nominations, where I was like, I don't know what this game is. So yeah, what about you? Where are you at with all your stuff or any stuff?
Yeah. So, well, as I mentioned, oh my goodness. I just received Nocturne and the Cascadia rolling game. So those I just got recently. And I do know that I just received oh man, so what I have out so those are just received and I've played and they're good. Um Recently also, though I know I know I've talked about it, the no, Points Ending Deep Dive was quite a while ago. But yeah, so anyway, Nocturne, Cascadia, Rolling. Those are the most
Yeah.
recent. I know that Undergrove should be here shortly? Question mark. I know they're ahead of schedule. I think that they're going to start fulfilling in early August. I wasn't supposed to get it until November, but they said they're going to start fulfilling this in August. So Undergrove, which is the new game from Elizabeth Hargrave, so that should be coming here soon this month, I assume. And then more recently, and actually this I don't think is too far away because I believe I just had to do the pledge manager for it. The Earth Abundance, the expansion for Earth.
Oh, nice.
So that I just had to do the pledge manager for should be coming soon. And I just backed recently Trekking the World Second Edition.
Oh, cool.
So the trekking games are games that I've always kind of been interested in. Whether it be trekking the national parks or whichever one, and just something that I've never been able to jump in on before. Just really haven't things haven't aligned for me to reach in before. But this is really reasonably priced. I think the second edition plus an expansion was like $50.
Yeah.
Which isn't too bad. So I was like, hey, yeah, we'll jump in there. So we got that coming. The one that I still have not gotten, which was supposed to ship in February 2022, and the last
February
update we got was in
2022.
May of this year,
Sure.
which is Chai Tea for Two.
Oh, right.
So this game was supposed to have come quite some time ago. It went super quiet for a really long time, and then in May there was an update that showed pictures supposedly of like boxes being ready to ship from the factory, and we've heard nothing since then. So we'll
Since.
see if that game's ever coming or not coming, or what the situation is there. But I think that's really the only other outstanding Kickstarter I have. I did also pre-order Roanoke
Well,
from
okay.
Capstone Games, which is that two-player. Uh, Basically, like one player plays the witch and the other person plays like the townsfolk, trying to figure out who the witch of the townsfolk is.
Yeah.
So Roanoke, something pagan, something I don't remember. But anyway, it's from Capstone. I love Capstone games in general. I did get and that should be here Wednesday, so I'm pretty excited about that. So I'm looking forward to playing that game. But then I think from a upcoming standpoint, I don't know exactly what I'm going to do, but I have a few things that are kind of quote unquote saved right now. The things that I have saved are Luthier, which has like 10 days left right now, which is the board
Oh,
game
that's the
about,
concert one, the
yeah,
violin
about
or
making instruments.
cello.
And so I have that. And then the other one that I have right now that is in progress that I've not committed to yet is Wandering Galaxy, which is the
Okay.
new Crossroads game from Plaid Hat. Um, so those are my two kind of in progress ones that I have not decided on yet. And then the other one that I have that is coming, that is launching in August, but I don't know when, was the recently announced Everdell Duo. So the
Oh,
two-player
I didn't
version of,
know about that.
yeah, so the two-player version of Everdell. So that is going to be coming to Kickstarter sometime in August. They haven't said when specifically, just that August 2024. They haven't said cost yet either. So I have it as let me know when it launches, because I'm curious how much that game's going to be, because I do enjoy Everdell. So if I can get it at a reasonable price in a easier to set up and play for two players, it's something I'm definitely interested in. But that's kind of where I am right now. I would say, yeah, obviously, my kickstarting of games has decreased. I actually have never backed anything on GameFound yet.
Okay.
I'm not against doing it. There just hasn't been anything there that has caused me to want to do it yet.
Sure.
But that's kind of where I'm at right now. So we'll see what happens. Have you gotten you haven't gotten your Metal Gear Solid board game yet, have you?
No, I have not
Have you got
gotten
any
that.
updates?
No. There was an well, I shouldn't say that. I haven't gotten any updates. I had to search for updates. And they were like, we never said it's shipping in May. We just said it's closing in May. We're closing it in May. We'll ship it when we're ready to ship it, or some weird stuff like that. So it's like,
Okay.
I don't know. It was supposed to like maybe ship in June or ship in July. I think maybe I'm getting it in August. Let me see if I search Metal Gear in my email, if it comes up, because I'm curious. Okay, so yeah, the last email I have is August 15th, 2023.
Oh.
Which is when I paid for it. When I paid $130 for this game. That
Cool.
please check project updates. Okay, let's look at a project update.
Yeah, let's look. I'm interested.
Current estimated shipping date is September 2024.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, though, at least there's a date, at least.
And that's literally the only thing on this page, as updated 2 days ago. We've had some late amendments to certified components that need to be rectified, delaying mass production and assembly until now. So I'm not going to get that this year, probably.
Well, at least you know, I guess, right?
Sure.
Sure. Oh, man. Oh, they're doing a special edition of Puerto Rico. Look at that. Campaign starts September 12th. Cool. I mean, Puerto Rico, man. Those special editions like that and Castles, man, they have looked so good. Anyway, okay, cool. All right. Hey, there we go. So that's where we are for Kickstarters. Awesome. Next thing I want to do, Josh, in the board game world, we are right around the corner from Gen Con. But when this podcast releases, Gen Con will actually be starting the next day, I think, because Gen Con, August 1st to the 4th in Indianapolis, the largest gaming convention in North America, second largest in the world behind, obviously, Essen. So, this is where a bunch of games are released, demoed, revealed, kind of all of those good things. That's where the Dice Tower will kind of announce their winners of their 2023 awards, kind of all that will happen there. And Board Game Geek does a really nice preview where they put a thread together of all the games that they know that are going to be there. And then people can kind of thumb up them for as far as like quote unquote how hot they are, as what people are excited about. So I thought we would just kind of go through, some of the initial games on here, chat about them very briefly, if you're cool with that, seeing kind of interest level, if there's things we want to talk about. Sure, cool. All right. So, hey, looking at this, at least the top couple games have not changed really at all. Just the number of thumbs have grown, although they're a little closer than they were before. Sitting number one in the hot seat is Rock Hard 1977. This game has been around for a while, or I shouldn't say around as in release, but like people have been talking about this game for a while. It is developed by Jackie Fox and published by DeVere. Basically, hey, you get to be a rock star in the 1970s. This game is I don't want to say controversial, but there's some quote unquote controversy about it because one of the mechanics in the game is ingesting quote unquote candy, which is drugs. Is the standard for that. Yes. But like I said, the designer Jackie Fox was the bassist in the band The Runaways. Apparently he was a Jeopardy champion as well. And it has been an avid board gamer for a long time. But yeah, people are really excited about this game. DeVere has been crushing it lately as far as board games go. They've really been putting out some good stuff. But Josh, any interest to play a board game about being a rock star in the 1970s?
Negative. I'm surprised. I'm surprised that I don't. It sounds cool. I don't know. I kind of rolled my eyes when I saw all the things go to 11. I'm like, okay, we're not past. We're not past this.
You're not
already. I don't know that the table presence appeals to me. That doesn't mean it's a bad game, but it's just not eye catching for me.
Oh, interesting. Okay. A lot of people have said they like the way this game looks. That they think
great,
very
good for
interesting.
them.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, it just I don't know. I'm not sure. I wouldn't say no to playing it, but it just I don't know. When you do get to the board, it kind of looks a little, I don't know, a little congested to me. It's all like, I don't know. I don't know. It just doesn't look like it's for me. But
Sure.
I like classic rock, so
Oh,
it
there you
should
go.
appeal to me.
Um, all right. Well, hey, so there we go. That's number one. The number two game. So the fact that that is number one makes the number two game even more surprising.
Right.
Because this game has been the talk of the town as of late, and that is Arcs, which is designed by Cole Weirley and published by Leader Games. This was just kind of recently, slightly recently. I don't know. It was a Kickstarter, did very well on Kickstarter. Very, very heavy game. The current weight on Board Game Geek is 3.41 out of 5. If you don't know who Cole Wehrle is, he has, he's the designer of Root and Pax Pamir and Oath and John Company. So very well respected designer in the board game industry. Leader Games typically has published most of Cole Wehrle's games. The artist here is Kyle Farron, who has done, that very um stylized art that is in Root and Oath and
Yeah.
Vast and kind of all of Leader's games. So this game, there are reviews that have hit for it in the last couple of weeks on YouTube from board game reviewers, and most of them basically say this is like one of the best games ever made. And there's
Wow.
kind of two ways to play it. There's basically like a sit down, we play a round of it, and then there's actually a campaign that is completely separate. So there's really kind of two ways to
Oh,
play and
nice.
participate in this game. The big reason I did not get it is that I believe the campaign requires 3 people.
Okay.
So this is kind of a big reason why I did not get the game, because I don't know that since it is a sci-fi game, my partner's not typically going to be into that unless it was campaign. And since the campaign requires 3, I believe that's right. It just wasn't going to happen. But Josh, any interest in Arcs?
Yeah, I think it looks really cool. I'd like to play it. Same thing though, like kind of like Root. Like I like as much as I want to play these games, it seems like it's like a monumental task to get them to the table
Mm-hmm.
with that many people. And when you do get that many people, it's kind of like, hey, let's play like a game we know that's quicker and easier.
Right.
So yeah, I think it looks really cool. Great design. I like the art style. It does for me, like I said, nice table presence. It's not too big and it's not too busy either. Like on the board, like it's very like sectored, straightforward looking board.
Right.
So I like that appeal as well. I don't know if maybe my tastes are changing the older I get too, potentially, but we'll talk about that with the next game, I think.
Gotcha. Speaking of which, the next game on their list right now, and just so everyone knows, Rockhard had as the time we were recording, had 552 votes. Arcs
Yeah,
had 507, and now we're dropping down all the way to 437. So you do see
yeah.
that those two are kind of like the leaders, big time. So this next game is Galactic Cruise. Has that delightful Ian O'Toole art, being published by Kinson Key Games, with a trio of, I think, first time slash not significant designers, in TK King, Dennis Northcutt, and Colton Thompson. I think this might be their first, or if not first, like very close to first game. This game also has gotten a lot of hype. It is also very, very heavy. A 385, so a very heavy, meaty game. The It's funny because this is one of those games that like you can go find. It was a Kickstarter. It now you can find like versions of the game on like the geek market for like $450. uh but Josh, any interest in Galactic Cruise?
No, it looks really cool, but it just looks too much for me. I really, really like the design, the aesthetics of it. It looks
Yeah.
very cool. I like the art. Um, it's just it takes up. There's like a picture of it taking up an entire tree table,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's a big game. But yeah, I would love to watch someone play. Well, actually, that's a lie. I wouldn't love to watch someone play it. I would like to play it probably, but it does look like um, it's probably too oof, I don't know. It looks too complicated to add to my collection.
Hmm.
um, but it's intriguing. I'll say that. But I don't know that I'm in on it.
Yeah. Like I said, was a Kickstarter back in like March. Was very successful on Kickstarter, or pretty successful. Had like 8,000 backers. Um, yeah, I think this is only going to be a demo. I don't think it's going to be sold there. But I think that people are definitely interested in this game, so we'll see.
3.85 though. That's
Yeah, that's
so
heavy.
high.
That's super heavy. The next game on the list is Tirnanog, the English edition of this game. This is where I always get a little weirded out about things because this game is, like I said, the English edition of it. It's already out in other countries.
Yeah,
Again, not first time designers, but the designers of Isaac Shalev and Jason Slingerland have done other stuff, but nothing that's been like super like talk of the town. Graham Gamers Guild is the publisher. I'll be honest, I don't know why this game is like so exciting to people because like I didn't like I just don't know like what the buzz is about this game because I never really heard anybody talk about it. It wasn't a game that when it was released elsewhere was super like exciting to people. From what I remember, it is a relatively affordable game, which is cool. But yeah, apparently people are pretty stoked about it. So Josh, any interest in Tirnanog?
it looks like there's a lot going on in this game.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Not at first glance. I do like the art. Again, I like the art. Um, uh, this doesn't really show. There's not great pictures of the table presence, so I don't really know what that setup looks like. But there looks like a lot of cards and a lot of context. So I'm not really sure what's going on in the game.
Yeah, I hear you there. So, all right. So then we'll just kind of poke through these next few. I'm not talking about them too much, but next on the list is SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, from CGE and designer Thomas Holek. Again, I think he is also done a couple other games, but nothing super massive as far as that goes. Does SETI look interesting to you, Josh?
It looks super cool. It's a 4 out of 5 though complexity.
Yeah, for
So there's
complexity, yeah.
no way. There's no way. But I really do like it. That it definitely has a unique look to it.
Yeah.
It does kind of remind me of a terraforming Mars feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks really cool. I like the
Yeah,
look
if I
of it.
recall, this game has quite the board presence, and it also, if I recall, has like a like turning dial in the middle that you
Yeah, right
turn
in the
to
middle of it.
yeah,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool looking. So then from AEG, from them we have Let's Go to Japan. This game people really seem to be enjoying. Again, a relatively affordable game. That is a kind of a little bit of a lighter compared to the last ones that we've been talking about for sure. Designed by Josh Wood, who did like Tiny Town's Fortune and Santa Monica and a couple other games as far as that goes.
Yeah,
um but yeah, Josh, any interest for Let's Go to Japan?
it looks cool. I'd like to check it out. If I was going to PAX Unplugged, I would definitely play this at AG at the age at the board game night for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely. All right. So next then is Windmill Valley, from designer Danny Garcia, and from the fine folks at Board and Dice. Danny Garcia, pretty well known, did Barcelona and Arborea and kind of a few other games there. Again, a little bit of a heavier-ish, a 2A8
Yeah,
game,
it's pretty
which
high.
is not surprising, right? It's like the people who are going to Board Game Geek who are interested in games. Imagine that they're interested in heavy games.
Yeah.
But really beautiful art. I think the game looks really nice. Pretty significant table presence, a lot of stuff. This again, a game with gears and turning things in the middle of the table seems to be kind of the trend this year. Any interest or love for Windmill Valley?
Yeah, it looks pretty cool. I am interested in it for sure. I really like the art style. I really like the board presence, table presence. Sorry. It looks like it could be a lot of fun.
And then kind of the last one we'll talk about, in any depth really probably, is Cities, from, Phil Walker
Steve
Harding,
Finn.
and Steve Finn. I wanted to stop here because, weight 1.88, nice light game finally.
Perfect.
As far as things go, another game from Devere. Devere seems to be, like I said, just crushing it as of late. But yeah, you got to put a city council together and build a city. Again, kind of like bigger plastic chunky pieces of building your city together. This is a game that people have been seeming to enjoy, but it is a little bit on the lighter side. Pretty affordably priced as well. Obviously, Phil Walker Harding has been really hot as of late as far as his games go. I think we're both a fan of many of the games Steve Finn has done.
Yeah,
Thoughts on cities?
looks really cool. I mean, I'm biased. Stephen was so nice to us at PAX Unplugged that he kind of just won us over. We'll pretty much buy anything he makes because not only does he make fun games, he's a super friendly, nice designer, and I think this looks great, just like his other games.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Josh, as you scroll through that list, anything else you want to call out, or kind of point out?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things caught my eye. Foundations of Metropolis. We got Emerson coming back
Yeah, and
to the
it basically
Foundation
is found.
series
Yeah, it's basically Foundations of Rome, but just like less
in the
expensive and
city.
smaller. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, which is great. That's good for him because that gets it in more people's hands. $50 for a game like this seems very cool. There was one more thing I think that caught my eye. Well, I'm in on the Mandalorian game, but I feel like it's going to be what it is. It's not going to be breaking any board game barriers.
Right.
But it seems like a fun. It's one of those storybook games, so that could be fun as a Star Wars fan. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? I had one more. Where'd it go? Where is it? Where are you? Reef Project. I thought looked
Oh yeah.
super, super cool. I really like the table presence. It seems like I kind of gravitate towards like the ocean style games too, so I really like that. But it has like kind of reminds me of Oceanus a little bit, mixed with
Mm-hmm.
like Pebble Pebble Rock, I think is what that game was called, or something similar to that. But I'm interested to check out more of this game. It looks like it could be fun.
Yeah. I think for me, the other kind of things that you didn't mention, there is Knitting Circle, which is kind of a standalone spin-off of Calico.
Okay. Oh yeah,
So
I did see that.
yeah, so also from Flat Out with Best Level Art, Emily Vincent, who I think is a first time designer, I think. But yeah, like I said, kind of still has that adorable cat on the cover, kind of doing their thing there. Comic Hunters is going to be there. Comic Hunters was
Yeah.
a huge game in like Brazil, I feel like a couple years ago. And the game was only in Portuguese, so like it's having its English release now, which people seem to be really stoked about and excited about, and it's a game that seems really exciting. Rebirth, which is the new Reiner Knizia game. I'm not gonna 100% jump in on it, but I'm
Yeah.
always willing to listen if it's a Reiner Knizia game and kind of see what the response is there. I do think it's interesting that like Slay the Spire and Dead Cells and things like that are like on the hot list of like these video games that are coming to the board game world, that people are really excited about, and I think people seemed really high on. And then Gnome Hollow from the Op apparently, whereas things like Arcs and Rock Hard have a lot of fan buzz. Apparently, Gnome Hollow has a lot of like designer and industry buzz.
Oh, nice.
That they're saying it's supposed to be something pretty cool that they're doing there with that one, which is neat to see. I am kind of surprised that Robinson Crusoe, the collector's edition. There's like this weird thing about the collector's edition for this game that I don't know like what if this was the one that supposed like there was another one that got released, but like Portal was like that's not the real one. I don't know, there was some weird things going on there, so I don't really know what's going on with that game. I don't know that I'm going to buy it either because I already have the base game or the original game, but like I just think it's interesting that it's there because it's such a weird like who knows exactly what's happening there with that one.
Yeah.
um
Did you
yeah,
see
and
that
then
Nekojima game? Nekojima.
is that something you're interested in?
Yeah.
Well, tell
It's
me
a
why.
dexterity game with
Oh,
cats,
okay. Well, that
and
sounds like a fun time.
it's called Island of Cats in Japan. So they obviously couldn't call it
Call
Isle
that,
of
yeah, yeah,
Cats.
yeah, 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 yeah. That makes sense.
But it definitely has a unique look to it. It must come in a big box. But the premise is it's a wooden game of skill and dexterity in which you have to keep an entire installation in balance. Players take turns placing or stacking denshu or electrical poles, depending on you, language. Respecting the locations without hanging cables, touching. Be careful not to be the one to bring this down. The structure, the game requires reflection, concentration, and skill. I think it looks
Oh,
pretty
interesting.
cool.
That does look. So
And it's
Pagan
only
Fate
40
of Roanoke.
bucks.
What's that?
And it's only $40.
That's not bad at all. And I messed up. The game I had ordered was Pagan Fate of Roanoke. Haha, because it is on this list too. So that's on here. Yeah, I think that probably covers up a lot of what I got going on. But yeah, I mean, it's always interesting to see kind of going in what people are really hot on. And I think I'll be even more interested in coming out, like what people are saying, like, were the things that like set everything apart. Um,
Yeah.
Another one that is potentially interesting is a game called Loot, but it has 3 O's in it, so it's Loot.
Loot.
Which is another game I know people have been talking about a little bit as far as being something they're interested in. So yeah, a lot of neat things coming out. Like I said, biggest board game convention in the US. I was in Indianapolis. I was in early August. As a result, I like never ever will ever be able to go because of work, for the most part. But yeah, very interested to see. And hey, more Final Girl expansions. Imagine that. So cool. All right, Josh. Anything about else about Gen Con?
I wish I could go.
Yeah, maybe someday, right?
Only if I only want to go if only a quarter of the people that normally go though.
Oh, well, I don't know that that'll ever happen, but
Just let them stay home so I can
yeah,
actually enjoy my time there.
sure, absolutely. All right, Josh. Well, from a video game perspective, I looked at the news and I was like, there's the strike and there's, the reworking of um Game Pass and all this other stuff. And I was like, none of those things are sounding really fun to talk about to me. So unless there's something there you want to talk about, I just figured, we're over halfway through the year now.
Yeah,
That maybe we should just talk about, the games we've played overall this year, kind of what the things we've enjoyed the most are, kind of where we're sitting as far as like favorite games of the year, kind of just a mid-year check-in, if you would, about
sure.
our, gaming in 2024, mostly looking at 2024 games for sure. I think one thing we both have in common is for whatever reason, even though we have access to them, neither one of us, I feel like, have really played most of the big games, even though we could have.
I would agree with you on that. I don't. I know. Well, so you're busy with school,
Yeah,
work, and schoolwork. Uh, I have been in. I can't even tell you how long this funk I've been in is
that's okay.
lasted months. So that has certainly affected my gaming time. I think a lot of my. I think in last year, I think I played more games normally, frequently in a week than I had played in any given month
Mm,
this year combined. I just feel like it's just kind of been just one of those fluky years.
yeah.
Not for any given reason. There's been certainly plenty of games to choose from.
Yeah, I think it's I had set out early in the year to replay games and look at what I want my top 10 games of all time to be, and I have been playing things that I haven't been talking about on this show because I'm like I said I'm replaying like these
Yeah,
old games to kind of figure these things out. Um, but it does mean that a lot of the new stuff I just haven't been, and I don't know why I've bought it, but I still bought it, but I just haven't played it, and I don't really know why that is because I have been playing things, but it also has been very short bites of a lot of things. There's been very
yeah.
few things that I've played all the way to completion this year. My completion percentage for games this year is probably lower than it's been in a really long time. Like I finished very, very few things. So, um, but with that being said, do you have any standouts so far this year? Anything that you've played this year that you were like, hey, I really enjoyed this game. I really liked this game. Or, when December rolls around, there's a good chance I might still be talking about this game. Anything like that this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think the easy one for me, without having to put too much thought into it, is Helldivers 2.
Yeah.
Really just kind of took over, I don't know, my entire month of February and March months, uh, and even into April. It did die down a little bit for me, but that's just a me thing. But I did find myself playing Helldivers 2 whenever I had the opportunity.
Right.
In trying to make opportunity to play it. Hey, I'll sacrifice some sleep. Like I'm not doing that as much as I used to, but
Right.
um, that would probably be the first thing I think of when I think of Helldivers 2. I like kind of also think about the nights playing games, just like with our little game group that we have. That
Mm-hmm.
so like I just instinctively, when I'm thinking of Helldivers 2, I'm also lumping in Phasmophobia and um, uh, those other games that I'm blanking on that we play, like Content Warning and um, shoot into in the back rooms, and that game that everyone plays, Lethal Company. Like those are the games. Like they're all kind of lumped into that. Hey, we're having fun.
Right.
Like we were like regularly playing like 1 to 3 times a week these games together, which was nice. It didn't last forever, but I was pretty happy with when it was going on. It was a lot of fun.
Right.
So yeah, and I know 3 out of those 4 games did not come out this year, but they were new to me.
Yeah. How do you think this, their biggest content expansion for Helldivers 2 got announced coming out in early August? Do you think that'll get you back into it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always looking to go back. I just I toy with going in solo, and it's just not the same. Like
Yeah.
this is not a game. Like I can play it solo, but am I kidding myself? Like trying to have a good time, versus playing a different game that is maybe more suited for solo play.
Right.
Yeah, I will go back and play Helldivers 2. I almost played it today, to be honest with you, this morning.
Oh, wow.
When I was looking at games to play. But we ended up playing Minecraft Dungeons and me yelling at my son for 2 hours. So who lost there? What about you? Anything that pops to your mind right
I
away?
mean, the first game that comes to mind, and I don't know that this will be like number one on my list at the end of the year, but the first game that actually comes to mind for me is Balatro. Balatro is that it just really kind of came out of nowhere. The poker hand rogue like deck builder that has you playing like where jokers give you different abilities, and like that game really just sucked me in. It on the surface, the premise is very straightforward and very simple. The game is very like pixelated, like low res, like not like this like looker of a game, but and in some ways the strategy is both very deep and not very deep all at the same time.
Yeah,
So I think it's a really really easy game to get into. It's I think a pretty challenging game to master, right? I think you can get pretty far being okay at the game, but I think to get to the top end of the game you have to be reasonably skilled at what you're doing. And like any roguelike, like sometimes the chance is not in your favor, and you have to be okay with that. But it was a game I really didn't know anything about, and then it came out and people were talking about it. It seemed cool, and I tried it, and I just fell in love because I like card games, I like deck building games, and I like roguelites. And you put all those together, even when it's poker related, I'm still pretty happy. So Balatro really caught me by surprise. I don't know that it'll be my number one, but I would be surprised if it's not my top 10 at the end of the year.
nice.
Anything else for you stick out so far this year?
I mean, Hades 2, right? That's obvious for me.
Yeah.
It's not even technically out, so does it count? Who knows? Who's to say? Well, you were to say, not me, but I think it counts. Hades 2 certainly sticks out for me. No question. It's definitely my favorite game of this year, except it's not out this year.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to get hung up more on it than anybody else.
Yeah, I
Maybe
think
if
if you
they
include it,
release it on
everyone will be like, that's fine.
December 28th, maybe then I will be happy to say it's my game of this year.
I think the only big question would be is if it doesn't technically release this year and it comes out next year, like would you include it on your list 2 years in a row?
No, that's why I probably wouldn't include it on my list this year.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because it would be doing it a disservice for the full release, right? That's what people tell me, at least. As far as anything else, like really sticking out to me, I mean, maybe you'll tell me something that I'm forgetting, but I gotta be honest. I know we started this year going like, we got a lot of stuff
We do.
coming out this year, and we certainly do have a lot of stuff that is coming out and has come out. But I gotta say, I'm really stretching to think of games that have really brought me a lot of enjoyment this year that came out this year.
Okay, Josh. So here's my question for you: what are the chances that on your top 10 list of games this year, what are the chances that Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League is on that list?
Right now, pretty high.
Is it because you haven't played more than 10 games that came out this year?
Actually, I am quite fond of most of Suicide
I know
Squad
you are. That's
versus
why
the
I'm
Justice
asking.
League. I think it. I think it deserves a lot of the stuff it's getting.
Yeah.
uh, I don't think they. I think they once again bungled the release of a game. They really kind of messed up what the game could have been. Um, I still think it's a good game.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of what they've done with the DLC. I'm not a big fan of how they've marketed the DLC. I'm not even a big fan of the still image that represents what the game looks like now.
Yeah. Like, I
It
don't even know what game
looks
that is.
like nothing.
Yeah. I logged into my Xbox today and updated some stuff. And
Like, what
um,
the heck is that game?
I was like, what game is that I haven't
Yeah,
installed? I don't even know what game that is.
yeah, yep. And it's a still of Lady Mister Freeze, Mrs. Freeze, if you will. Now,
Okay.
I listen.
What it is. I didn't know what that
I
was. Okay.
also like. I understand that they're trying to change the way that some of these characters are portrayed. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have a Mrs. Freeze. I'm not saying it's woke. I'm not going nuts. But also, like, you could just stick to some original designs too. I don't need my Poison Ivy to be a 13-year-old, probably 8-year-old child. It's just a little upsetting in that regard. Um, they could stick to some original designs. It wouldn't really bum me out. But yeah, it, it could be in my top 10 games of the year. What a weird thing to say. Oh, what about you? Anything else? I'm gonna choke on my words with Suicide Squad, so help me out here.
Yeah, I mean, the other game that kind of jumps out to me right away was a game that I didn't necessarily have super high expectations for, but I think really surprised me in how much I enjoyed it. And that was Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown.
Oh yeah, that is good. That is good. That's a good
Yeah,
pick.
that game really surprised me. I do like, side-scrolling roguelikes. Like I enjoy those. I tend to find them pretty great. Or your, you know, uh Metroidvania, however you want to call them. And I think it's a good version of it. And I think it's a neat and interesting take on a Prince of Persia game. I think it's really well done. I think it's a really quality game. So I think that there's a good chance that game will end up somewhere on my list at the end of the year. So I think that's kind of the other really big one that jumps out to me that right now I'd be like, yeah, probably is going to be somewhere. Obviously, there's some other games I've not played yet. That
Mm-hmm.
there's a chance that I still play them at some point this year. Obviously, having Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I haven't played yet. Haven't played Stellar Blade, even though I was like one of the biggest like proponents of Stellar Blade before it came out. I still
Yeah,
haven't played it. So those are a couple that I do want to make sure I play as we kind of wrap up or get closer to the end of the year as we get to this last half. I will say college football 25 probably will end up on my list somewhere.
sure.
Probably towards the bottom would be my guess. But I feel like that's going to be a game I put so much time into. It's going to be hard to deny it. Um, and then I, something that might sneak onto the list. I don't think that Rise of the Ronin will. I put more time into that game than I anticipated that I would, and I liked it, but I don't know that game's going to find its way into my list. But Grand Blue Fantasy Relink might. That game I still have installed, and I still look at going back to it pretty regularly. I know that game is definitely not for everyone, and I
Yeah.
think that those who liked it really enjoyed it. I had a really good time with it. I have more in that game I want to do than what I have done. But it wouldn't surprise me if that game snuck onto my list somewhere as well. But yeah. Oh, and I need to play more Helldivers too, as well.
Hmm.
Like I said, that and Stellar Blade and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth are like the ones that I need to make the time to play. I don't know why I haven't played them. Maybe just to be a pain. I don't know. But those are, I think, the things that are kind of um, really what I'm looking for. Part of me says I probably should play Hellblade 2. I think most people forgot that game came out this year.
Yeah.
So But I feel like I should play it because in theory that is a game I should like. But yeah, and then man, I know people love the final shape too, but I'm so far behind in Destiny. I don't know that I'll ever get that back to playing that game ever again, even though apparently that is quite a wonderful addition to the game. So yeah. All right. Well, Josh, as we, wind the show up here, very briefly, we talked before the show started. You and I were kind of talking about the games we were going to buy for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And I know we've talked on and off over the year about like, things we're looking forward to most or anything like that. You talked a little bit about being in a gaming funk and about things, not really always knowing like what you're wanting to play or what you're in the mood to play. Is there anything you're excited about that you're like, okay, right now I am really excited to play XYZ game coming up here?
Yeah, I think there's two games that come to mind right off the bat, and that's Star Wars Outlaws and Dragon Age Veilguard. I think are the two games that are on the top of my list.
When do you think, because I know we don't have a Veilguard release date yet, still, the nebulous fall/holiday 2024 or whatever it is, or winter. When do you think that game's going to come out?
November 20 something.
Think so? Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, I think for me, the kind of, I don't want to say throwaway because it's not going to be good, but one of the games I'm really excited about is Cat Quest 3 coming out in just a couple of weeks here, because I do love the Cat Quest games. But Star Wars Outlaws I am really interested in because I think it seems to be hitting all the right buttons, and like we've talked about that I'm not a huge Star Wars fan compared to other people.
Yeah.
But that this game seems to be doing the right things and saying the right things as far as that goes. But the two games I think I'm most excited about for the rest of the year are definitely that's very confident. Astrobot in September. Really looking forward to Astrobot because gosh darn, that game looks so great. And because I am nothing if not the cliche of myself, Assassin's Creed Shadows. I think for me those are kind of like the two biggest things that I'm looking forward to as the year rolls out. Now there's a few other things that might sneak in there. I am still really really interested in about when Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is going to come out.
Yes.
I really like machine games. I love the Wolfenstein games that they did. Well, the main ones, I should say. I really loved. So I'm very curious about Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. That would be the other one that might be on that list if I knew for sure when it was coming out. But yeah, cool. All right, hey Josh, you know what? Reasonably linked episode for us for once.
Yeah.
For the first time in a long time. What do you say we? I was gonna say wrap the show up, but that would be skipping our well-rounded life segment. We don't want to do that. So, Josh, let's move on to our well-rounded life segment. Sure. Obviously, we're a gaming podcast, but we want to give all you listeners one other recommendation, suggestion, or thing that we are currently into that is helping us live a well-rounded life. Josh, what is your recommendation for the listeners this month?
Got a bunch for you. Twisters. Go see it in theaters. It's awesome.
Was it awesome?
It was so good. It really lives up to the hype. It doesn't try to be the first one. It has nods to the first one. It really does. Today's special effects really help this movie greatly. It's not overly CGI'd. In fact, you couldn't need, like, obviously they had to use CGI for these tornadoes, and I'm telling people about it. I'm like, did they use CGI for that? Like, oh yeah, obviously they had to use CGI for that. But they did a lot of practical effects. It really came across just like its own thing. It's its own movie, but it really has some great nods to the first one, and it's not copying the first one. It's not remaking it. Just very well acted, very fun, thrilling movie. So that was a lot of fun. Speaking of a lot of fun, so was Deadpool versus Wolverine. Totally different style movie. Also very fun. Content-wise, not as good as Twisters as far as story, but when it comes to fan service, they knocked it out of the park. You're not going to get a better Marvel fan servicey movie until maybe Doomsday.
I was going to ask you what you thought about those announcements from Comic-Con.
Actually, maybe Thunderbolts. Thunderbolts might get us better. But Thunderbolts is really relying on people having watched the Disney Plus shows. Doomsday's going to confuse people. It's not a spoiler because it's all over the place for people who don't know that the Russo brothers are back to direct 2 more Avengers films.
Yeah, they are.
Secret Wars and Doomsday. Not only that, but they are also announced that the Fantastic Four will be in both films.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention their own film, and they obviously revealed Doctor Doom to be played by Robert Downey Jr., which is basically we saw live on Comic-Con YouTube shares skyrocket for Disney. Just temporarily, probably. So that's pretty big news.
We talk about often, that for Square, like their like emergency game, right, is like a Chrono Trigger like remaster remake, right? Like when they're like, oh crap, like we need to do something like that's this. I feel like this was like Disney/Marvel, like
they
being
pull
like,
the
oh, like
emergency
they're
lever,
ripping that emergency cord hard right now.
Yeah. Even to the point where this is not a spoiler, but in Deadpool versus Wolverine, Deadpool does make a joke at how bad the MCU has been. And it's pretty funny. And then just as a good old throw in last reminder or first reminder, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire is now on Netflix.
Yeah, it is.
So check it out.
I almost watched it because of your recommendation, but I was watching other things, so it is on the list to watch. So
yeah, we watched it. We started watching it yesterday. We finished watching it today. Just a good film. Good film. Ghostbusters Afterlife as well. So 3 recommendations from me.
Awesome.
Kyle, what do you got?
Well, I have 2 recommendations, but the first one does start with a number, and that is 3 Body Problem on Netflix. 3 Body Problem was released on Netflix like back in like March. I didn't watch it then because the first like review or 2 I saw of it was not super positive. And then apparently those were the outliers that I just didn't realize. It is done by Benioff and Weiss, the Game of Thrones folks who brought that to the big screen, to the small screen. This is, though, another adaptation of a series of novels, a trilogy of novels. The nice part is that this novel trilogy is complete and has been for like a decade.
Yeah.
So, everything they're doing is adapting. And it's really good. If you like a harder sci-fi show, I would encourage you to check it out. It's doing some interesting things. It also, has a more than a few fan favorite Game of Thrones actors in the show,
Nice.
which is kind of fun to see. But it is a really interesting premise. It's an interesting concept. It does a nice job of jumping back and forth between like the 60s and today. There's some things with like some weird like VR tech in it, and like just there's like a whole. It's covering a lot of different things in a lot of different ways, and the acting is really solid. The story is interesting and thoughtful. Most episodes end where you're like, well, what happens next? And then you got to keep going. So they do a really nice job of that. So, whatever you thought at the end of Game of Thrones, I can totally appreciate and understand. But I do think that, Benioff and Weiss have shown that they are very good at adapting things that exist.
Yeah.
And this book series exists. It's done. The reason I actually watched it is I saw that it got nominated for some Emmys, and I was like, oh, I thought that show sucked. And then I went and looked at all the reviews and stuff, and I'm like, apparently it doesn't. And It is really good. So I would encourage folks to check it out. And the other thing then is a special on Max, which is Alex Edelman's Just for Us. You could easily call this a stand-up comedy special. It's kind of a cross between that and like a one-man show.
Okay.
Because it is definitely stand-up comedy, but it is an hour and a half.
Right.
It is all about one situation. He talks about, and I don't think this is a spoiler. He talks about attending a white supremacy meeting in New York. That's what the entire 90 minutes is about. So it is really, really interesting. It's very, very good. It was also actually nominated for an Emmy. And this had been on my list to watch for a while. I just hadn't gotten to it. And then when I saw it was nominated for an Emmy, I was like, okay, let's watch it. And it's quite good. So if you want to watch something that is both makes you think a little bit, but is actually overall just extremely funny, Alex Edelman's Just for Us on Max. is really awesome. And hey, I'll do 3 things too, because why not?
Yeah.
Also on Max, Hard Knocks is back, but in an interesting way. Usually Hard Knocks, there's like the training camp version. Then there's Hard Knocks in season for football. This year they've added an additional one, which is Hard Knocks, and it is following the New York Giants executive team. So like the general manager,
really?
the scouts, and it's like everything of like, what do they do in the offseason? How do they decide what to do with free agents? How do they decide who they're going to draft? Like all
that
of
sounds
that
better.
stuff. Yeah. So it's very interesting. It's a really different look at football that I think most of us don't see, about kind of what the people in the front office do when they're doing their job. So it is very interesting. What is also kind of neat about it in a way is obviously it's coming out now because all these decisions have already been made, right? So it is really interesting to be like, well, we already know that Saquon Barkley's not on the team anymore, right? So how did that happen though? Like, what was the process that it like allowed that to happen? How did they identify like who they were going to go for in free agency, and like who did they maybe get that they were trying to get, and why didn't they get them? Like all of that stuff is talked about, which I think is really kind of an interesting thing to go in and look and see. And the episodes are shorter. They're only about 40 minutes for the most part, so they're a little shorter than typical Hard Knocks episodes. But like I said, it's just a really different look at the NFL, how things are done in the NFL. So like I said, if you're interested or have enjoyed Hard Knocks in the past from a production standpoint, it's just as good as it always has been. If you are like, don't want to see like rich people sit around and talk about like how much money they're going to pay NFL players, maybe this isn't going to be for you. But if you have any interest in how the league actually like operates, I think it's going to give you some interesting insight to it. So that's the current new season of Hard Knocks. The preseason, I don't know what they're calling it, but there's a Hard Knocks thing on HBO right now, and it's great. So you should check it out.
Nice.
Josh, what do you say we wrap this show up?
Sure thing. Let's do it. Thanks for joining us, everyone. In addition to finding us on Twitter and Instagram, I said Twitter, on X and Instagram at BoardWithVG. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/BoardWithVG. So feel free to give us a 5-star rating over there. Also, if you want to communicate in the more long form or you're just not feeling social media, please feel free to email us at boardwithvg@gmail.com. We tag our stuff with hashtag boardwithvg, so please feel free to do that as well so we can see what you're up to. And whatever podcast service you're listening to us on, we encourage you to give us a stellar rating. That is whether you're downloading us from the Dice Tower Network feed or our very own standalone Board with Video Games feed. You can find me on Xbox Live, PlayStation Network, etc. at Why So Serious. That's SIRRIUS. Kyle, where can people find you?
So you can find me on all the usual places: X, Instagram, PlayStation Network, Xbox Live, Board Game Geek, all at Cyclocross, CYCOCROSS. As always, if you have suggestions for future topics, be sure to reach out to us on the social media, because we want to talk about what you want to hear about. And remember, everyone, whether it be board games or video games, never stop gaming.